We choose to go to the moon. Not because they are easy.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
But because they are hard.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hi, welcome to We Choose to Go to Kennedy, the official podcast of Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, where we talk all things past, present, and future of space exploration. Today we are in a little bit of a different location. We're in Gateway, the Deep Space Launch Complex, and to tell us a little bit more about where we are and why we're here, we have our Chief Operating Officer, Therrin Protze. Therrin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you for having me. So yeah, this was a big project. It started off right before COVID, and then COVID hit, and we had to kind of regroup. But the whole time we were working the strategy. And that strategy remains today. This is the next of NASA, the future, and commercial space crews are in here. So we really developed some relationships with some great companies who then provided some fantastic content and even real rockets right in this place. So it's to me, it's something neat because you don't know what's going to be here or in this complex each time you come here. So it's hopefully something always new.
Definitely. So you've been here for about 10 years. Yep. You've seen tons of different projects, but Gateway's a little bit different. We usually focus on more of the history, but this time is going to be a little bit different with more of the rotating exhibits of new things. I want to talk about the opening day. What was going through your head? What was the experience like?
Well, it's always nerve-wracking because everybody here, you have the top brass from our company, the top brass from NASA, and we wanted everything to go right, and it went absolutely perfect. But I think the highlight was watching the F-104s fly right over, and I'll never forget my owner looking at me and goes, "I can see his face," So that's how close it was. And then to open up and watch people just be amazed at what was in here. Seeing a true SpaceX booster that's been flown twice. And the way we designed it, you keep everybody very kind of close, and then that reveal when they walk through it, I think is pretty spectacular.
Circling back to when we were kind of getting this whole thing together, it was a little bit of a hassle. This was during hurricane season, This was during the pandemic, and it's definitely a bit of a process to get a big project like this going in those, conditions in that environment. Tell us about the challenges in getting this whole thing, and what did you imagine for Gateway, and how did it turn out?
Well, those are all great questions. I go back to the booster that's behind me. We had to bring it in September, which is probably the prime month for hurricanes. So we were all very nervous. And the fact it had to come in, we couldn't pour the cement floor, so it had to come in on a dirt floor just because of the weight. And watching the amazing engineers take that vehicle, the K-Meg, and turn it in and basically get it in within 2 inches was both nerve-wracking and pretty inspirational. So getting it all buttoned up very shortly after was a top priority so that if a hurricane did come, we protect the artifacts. But yeah, it's been absolutely amazing from that perspective.
For the Falcon 9 in particular, I know there's a bit of a fun story of how that got here. How did you get your hands on a spacecraft like that?
Yeah, begged, right? It's amazing, it's what social media can do sometimes. And Elon Musk was saying he's walking around the rocket garden here at the Visitor Complex in his early days and getting engineering ideas. And I said I would love to have a rocket in our rocket garden. And my wife woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning because my phone was going crazy, buzzing, because he said it would be my honor, and all the likes were coming in. So after she shut off their phone, we started working that process, and now it's presented behind me, and it's pretty exciting.
So we have a lot of flight-flown artifacts. Tell us a little bit about the one that's behind us.
Yeah, EFT-1, Exploration Flight Test 1. Launched in 2015 in December, and I was here, and it launched on a Delta IV Heavy. It was watching the Delta IV Heavy take off with Orion. I mean, it goes so slow off the bat, and it's like a turbo booster kicks in. And then to get the offer to have it behind us. So it goes to space, 3,600 miles beyond low Earth orbit, and comes back pretty much the farthest we've been since 1972. And then to have it standing behind me is just, again, something truly inspirational, amazing. And and all the information that's around it about the difference of Apollo versus Orion, and listen to the astronaut stories who are going to go on Artemis at some point, and learning the technical aspects of it is pretty neat. I think something the guests truly enjoy.
Definitely. I think what's so rewarding about working here especially is being at the very place where space flight and launches actually happen. We hear that you are quite close and familiar with someone that has worked on the Artemis missions, specifically Artemis 2. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's something that I'm basically starstruck, right? So when I first got here in 2014, an astronaut candidate named Christina Cook walked around with about 7 other candidates, and her and I got to walk one-on-one, and listening to her talk about how she became an astronaut because she came to Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex when she was, I think, 12 or 13. That is something that is uplifting. And now she's on Artemis 2. You know, she's been on spacewalks. She's on the ISS. You know, so I feel like, yeah, I know a star. And those type of, people today at that young age, now they're astronauts doing amazing things. The future is bright.
Definitely. It's such a sweet story to know that she came here when she was 12 and how much, the visitor complex has changed over the years. And hopefully one day she'll get to come back and see the Orion capsule.
I hope so.
In the flesh.
Yep.
So in addition to our flight-flown artifacts from our space partners, we also have some interactives, including our 4 motion theaters. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to have this inside of our entire exhibit.
Yeah, the whole part is it's storytelling, right? And when I was a kid, Carl Sagan had a show called Cosmos, and Neil deGrasse Tyson has the same show. So one of the concepts in the show is that Carl Sagan, on a movie set, but would have a spaceship of the imagination. So it looked like he was on a spaceship and he was taking you through the galaxy, and you were learning and he was teaching about the galaxy, but you felt you're traveling with him. And it was so inspirational for me. I wanted to kind of have that same creation and feeling for our guests. So we created Spaceport, which is inside Gateway, and allows them to pick 4 different journeys they want to go on. And it's truly an amazing experience. They feel like they enter a cockpit and then they move right on up into an immersive screen that takes them on the journey, while they have real narrations from people from actual NASA. So we have 4 stories that are just something truly inspiring you to see.
Definitely. So I want to talk a little bit about the casting call of getting these voiceovers. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, that was an interesting process. So we were thinking actors, and then we just said, no, we're real and we want to be fantastic. So we have real rockets and real launches here. So let's have real people of NASA be the voiceover. So we did a casting call, and it came flooding in. And, we got some superstars, in my opinion. And, Janet Petro, our center director and acting NASA administrator right now, does Red Planet. Our acting center director, Kelvin Manning, is doing Daring Explorers. And we have just amazing people, and we even got the NASA attorney involved. So there's a whole bunch of people on every one of the voiceovers, and those are real people in NASA, and that makes it more genuine.
Yeah, and we've also had some real astronauts test out the ride. Can you tell me a little bit about who was the first astronaut to try out the rides and what the experience was like?
Sure. I mean, Janet Kavandi came in and she rode the Red Planet, and she came out smiling. Thought it was just fantastic. So, and again, she goes, learning while you're immersed in that experience is probably what's truly amazing.
I definitely agree. Do you have a favorite ride out of all the 4?
Well, and that's, my favorite is, the astronaut Tom Jones narrated the deep space aspect of it, and the cosmic wonders. You fly and you learn about what we've experienced through what Hubble's amazing discoveries, as well as James Webb Telescope, and what's going to happen beyond. So I love hearing that narration, because the education that you get out of it, learning about the galaxies. I mean, there's a part in there where it tells our galaxy would fit over 2,200 times in this star, and that is just an awe-inspiring experience.
Well, Therrin, it's very cool to know that all 4 worlds are astronaut tested and approved. And just want to thank you so much for joining us today and giving us the mission briefing on all things Gateway.
Well, this place is a true inspiration, so thank you for having me.
Of course.
We choose to go to the moon. Not because they are easy,
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
but because they are hard.
It's 1 small step for man, 1 giant leap for mankind.